In March of 2007, a portfolio manager named Richard sat in a meeting room in downtown Chicago. The market was near all-time highs. His colleagues were confident. His clients were happy. But Richard was staring at one number that had been flashing red for 6 months, and he was deeply uncomfortable. He wasn't looking at stock prices. He wasn't watching CNBC. He was watching a single line on a chart that almost nobody outside of Wall Street professional circles pays attention to. That one signal told him a recession was coming more than a year before the 2008 financial crisis hit. He quietly moved his clients out of the riskiest assets. He positioned for the storm. When the crash came, his clients lost far less than the market average and were positioned to buy assets at historic discounts on the way back up. What was that signal? It was an inverted yield curve, and it's just one of 10 economic indicators that wealthy investors monitor every single month, indicators that most regular people have never heard of, let alone understand. Today I'm going to break down all 10, in plain English, no finance degree required. Here's the uncomfortable truth about financial media. The information most people consume about the economy, the news headlines, the social media posts, the talking heads on cable television, is designed to generate emotion, not insight. Fear drives clicks, outrage drives shares, panic drives engagement. None of it is designed to help you make better financial decisions. Wealthy investors know this. They don't watch the same news. They don't react to the same headlines. They watch a different set of signals entirely, indicators that measure what the economy is actually doing, not what commentators are saying about it. There's a meaningful distinction between those two things. And the investors who understand that distinction are the ones who moved out of risky assets before the 2008 crash, who bought aggressively during the COVID sell-off of 2020, and who have protected their portfolios through every cycle since. The 10 indicators I'm going to show you today are all publicly available. You don't need a Bloomberg terminal. You don't need a financial advisor with Wall Street connections. You need to know what to look for and what it means when you find it. Let's go through all 10. Indicator number 1 is the yield curve, and this is the one that Richard used in our opening story to see the 2008 crisis coming more than a year early. Here's how it works in plain English. The US government borrows money by issuing treasury bonds. Short-term bonds, like 2-year treasuries, typically pay lower interest rates than long-term bonds, like 10-year treasuries. That makes intuitive sense. If you lend money for longer, you expect higher compensation for the risk. The yield curve is simply a picture of those interest rates across different timeframes. Normally, the curve slopes upward. Short-term rates are low, long-term rates are high. The curve is normal, but sometimes the curve inverts. Short-term rates rise above long-term rates. The line bends backward. This is called an inverted yield curve, and it has preceded every single US recession in the last 50 years. Why? Because an inverted curve signals that bond markets, where the largest, most sophisticated investors in the world operate, believe short-term economic pain is coming. Investors pile into long-term bonds for safety, which drives long-term yields down below short-term yields. It's the bond market's warning system. When Richard saw the yield curve invert in 2006, he didn't panic. He didn't sell everything. He repositioned, reduced exposure to the most vulnerable assets, and prepared to buy at lower prices when the correction came. How to track it? Go to the St. Louis Federal Reserve website. It's called FRED. Search 10Y2Y. That's the spread between the 10-year and 2-year Treasury yields. When that number goes negative, the curve has inverted. Watch it every month. Indicator number 2 is M2O money supply. M2O is the Federal Reserve's measure of how much money exists in the economy: cash, checking accounts, savings accounts, and money market funds combined. Why does this matter? Because the amount of money in circulation directly determines inflation. When the Fed expands the money supply rapidly, as it did between 2020 and 2022, when M2O grew by over 40% in just 2 years, more dollars chase the same amount of goods. Prices rise, that's inflation. When money supply contracts, as it did in 2023 and 2024, inflationary pressure eases. Watching M2O growth tells you what inflation is going to do before it shows up in the CPI numbers that make the news headlines. Wealthy investors watch M2O because it gives them a 6 to 12-month preview of the inflationary environment. When M2O is expanding rapidly, they increase exposure to inflation-resistant assets. Real estate, commodities, gold, and stocks of companies with pricing power. When M2O growth is slowing or contracting, they watch for deflationary pressures and position accordingly. How to track it, also on FRED. Search M2SL. Look at the year-over-year percentage change. When it's accelerating above 8–10% annually, inflation is coming. When it's negative or near zero, disinflationary forces are at work. Indicator number 3 is the labor force participation rate. And I want to be clear, this is not the unemployment rate you hear about in news headlines. The unemployment rate only counts people who are actively looking for work. It completely ignores people who have given up looking, who have stopped searching because they believe no jobs are available. The labor force participation rate measures the percentage of working-age Americans who are either employed or actively seeking work. When this number falls, it means people are leaving the workforce, not because they don't need jobs, but because they've lost hope in finding one. Here's why this matters for your money. A falling participation rate means the labor market is weaker than the official unemployment number suggests. Consumer spending, which drives 70% of the U.S. economy, depends on people having jobs and income. When participation falls, spending eventually falls. And when spending falls, corporate revenues fall, earnings fall, and markets correct. Wealthy investors watch participation rate trends because they reveal labor market health that the headline unemployment number hides. The participation rate peaked at 67.3% in early 2000. Today it sits around 62.5%. That 4.8 percentage point gap represents tens of millions of working-age Americans who have left the workforce and whose purchasing power is missing from the economy. How to track it? Fred again. Search CIVPART. Watch the trend direction, not just the number. Indicator number 4 is credit spreads, and this is one of the most powerful early warning signals in all of finance. Here's the concept. When companies borrow money, they pay higher interest rates than the U.S. government because companies can go bankrupt and governments typically don't. The difference between what a company pays and what the government pays on the same duration loan is called the credit spread. When the economy is healthy, investors are confident. They accept lower spreads because default risk feels low. When the economy weakens, fear rises. Investors demand higher compensation for lending to companies, spreads widen. Widening credit spreads are one of the earliest signals that financial stress is building in the system. Before the 2008 crisis, credit spreads on high-yield bonds, debt issued by riskier companies, started widening months before stock markets fell. The bond market saw the stress before the equity market did. Wealthy investors watch this because bond markets are generally smarter and faster than stock markets. When credit spreads start widening rapidly, it signals that large, sophisticated investors, the ones pricing corporate bonds, are getting nervous. That's a signal to review your risk exposure. How to track it? On FRED, search BAML0A0 high M2O. That's the ICE-BOF-A high-yield index option-adjusted spread. When it starts moving sharply upward, pay attention. Indicator number 5 is the ISM Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, the PMI. This is a monthly survey of purchasing managers at manufacturing companies across the U.S. They're asked whether business conditions are expanding or contracting. The PMI is reported as a single number. Above 50 means expansion, more companies are growing than shrinking. Below 50 means contraction, more companies are cutting back than expanding. It's simple, clean, and remarkably predictive. Why is this valuable? Because purchasing managers are the people who actually order raw materials, hire workers, and manage production schedules. They know what orders are coming in, they know what inventory looks like, they know what customers are telling them. When they pull back, when PMI drops below 50 and stays there, it's because business is genuinely slowing down. The manufacturing PMI typically leads broader economic conditions by 3 to 6 months. When it contracts for several consecutive months, a broader economic slowdown almost always follows. When it expands from a low base, recovery is usually underway. How to track it? The Institute for Supply Management releases this data on the first business day of every month. It's free. Search ISM Manufacturing PMI and you'll find it. Watch the trend. A single month below 50 is noise, multiple months is a signal. We're halfway through the list and we've already covered 5 signals that most investors never look at. Before we continue, if you want to put all 10 of these into one free economic dashboard you can check every month, subscribe to this channel right now and turn on notifications. I'm putting together a resource that shows you exactly where to find all 10 indicators, what to look for each month, and what it means for your money. Subscribe so you're first to know when that drops. Now, indicator number 6. This one is my personal favorite on the entire list because it measures something nobody talks about: global trade, and it has a nickname on Wall Street. Indicator number 6 is the Baltic Dry Index, the BDI. This is a measure of shipping costs for bulk raw materials, iron ore, coal, grain, and cement across the world's major shipping routes. It's essentially the cost of moving the raw ingredients of global manufacturing across the ocean. Here's why wealthy investors love it. It can't be manipulated by financial markets or government statistics. It's a pure supply and demand signal. When global trade is strong, when factories are ordering raw materials and ships are in high demand, the BDI rises. When global trade contracts, BDI falls, because raw materials are ordered before finished goods are produced, and finished goods are produced before they appear in economic data. The BDI often leads official economic reports by months. Warren Buffett has been quoted discussing global shipping indicators. Sophisticated macro funds track it closely, and virtually no mainstream personal finance creator has ever mentioned it. That gap between what sophisticated investors watch and what mainstream media covers is exactly the gap that this channel exists to close. How to track it? Search Baltic Dry Index on Trading Economics or investing.com. The data is free. Look at the trend over 3 to 6 months, not day to day. Indicator number 7 is the CAPE ratio, the cyclically adjusted price-to-earnings ratio. Developed by Nobel Prize-winning economist Robert Shiller, the CAPE measures how expensive the stock market is relative to average corporate earnings over the last 10 years, adjusted for inflation. The regular price-to-earnings ratio can be distorted by temporary earnings spikes or crashes. The CAPE smooths those distortions by averaging 10 years of earnings data. The historical average CAPE for the U.S. stock market is around 1617. When CAPE rises well above that, as it did in 2000 before the dot-com crash, and as it has been in recent years above 30, it signals that stocks are expensive relative to long-run earnings. This doesn't mean markets crash immediately. Expensive markets can stay expensive for years, but the research is clear. Future 10-year returns from the stock market are strongly predicted by the CAPE at the start of that period. High CAPE today means lower expected returns over the next decade. Wealthy investors use CAPE not to time the market, which is nearly impossible, but to calibrate their expectations and their asset allocation. At CAPE of 35, they don't expect the same returns as at CAPE of 15. They adjust accordingly. How to track it? Robert Shiller publishes updated CAPE data on his Yale website monthly. It's free. Search Shiller CAPE ratio. Indicator number 8 is the US dollar index, ticker symbol DXY. The DXY measures the value of the US dollar against a basket of 6 major foreign currencies: the euro, yen, British pound, Canadian dollar, Swedish krona, and Swiss franc. Why does this matter for your money? Because the dollar's strength affects almost everything. A strong dollar makes US exports more expensive for foreign buyers, which hurts large US companies that sell globally and can weigh on their stock prices. A strong dollar also suppresses commodity prices, including oil and gold, which are priced in dollars globally. Conversely, a weak dollar boosts commodity prices, benefits international stocks when converted to dollars, and often correlates with emerging market strength. Wealthy investors watch DXY because it's the single most globally connected financial variable. When the dollar moves significantly, up or down, ripple effects spread through equities, commodities, bonds, and emerging markets within weeks. How to track it? DXY is available on any financial platform: Trading Economics, TradingView, Bloomberg. Watch the trend over 3 to 6 months and watch for major breaks above or below key technical levels. Indicator number 9 is the 10-year U.S. Treasury yield. This is the interest rate the U.S. government pays to borrow money for 10 years, and it is arguably the single most important number in global finance. Here's why. The 10-year Treasury yield is the benchmark off which virtually everything else is priced. Mortgage rates are priced relative to it. Corporate bond rates are priced relative to it. Equity valuations are anchored to it. When the 10-year yield rises, as it did dramatically from 2022 to 2023, several things happen simultaneously. Mortgage rates rise, making housing more expensive. The discount rate used to value future corporate earnings rises, making growth stocks less valuable. Bonds become more attractive relative to stocks, pulling money out of equities. Everything is connected to this one number. Wealthy investors track the 10-year yield because understanding its direction helps them anticipate how different asset classes will perform. Rising rates hurt growth stocks and bonds. They help financial companies like banks. Falling rates do the opposite. When you understand the 10-year yield's direction, you have a compass for the entire capital markets landscape. How to track it? Fred, search DG Sten, or simply check the financial news. Unlike most indicators on this list, the 10-year yield actually does get mainstream coverage. Indicator number 10 is the Consumer Confidence Index, published monthly by the Conference Board. This is a survey of 5,000 American households measuring how they feel about current economic conditions and their expectations for the future. It sounds soft, just feelings, right? But consumer spending drives approximately 70% of the entire U.S. economy. What consumers feel about the future directly predicts what they're going to spend or not spend in the coming months. When consumer confidence falls sharply, spending contracts. When spending contracts, company revenues fall, hiring slows, and the broader economy weakens. The Consumer Confidence Index has historically peaked near the top of economic cycles, when everything feels great, and troughed near the bottom, when fear is highest and opportunity is greatest. Wealthy investors use this signal counterintuitively. When confidence is at multi-year highs, they get more cautious, recognizing that peak optimism often precedes corrections. When confidence is at multi-year lows, they look for buying opportunities, recognizing that maximum fear is often when assets are cheapest. Right now, consumer confidence is near its lowest levels in 75 years. Wealthy investors are paying close attention. How to track it? The Conference Board releases this monthly. Search Conference Board Consumer Confidence. It's free. Let me bring this back to Richard, the portfolio manager from our opening story. He didn't just watch one indicator, he watched all of them together, looking for convergence. When the yield curve inverted in 2006, that was one signal. When credit spreads started widening in early 2007, that was two signals. When the ISM manufacturing PMI dropped below 50 for consecutive months, that was three. When consumer confidence started declining despite the headlines saying everything was fine, that was four. The more signals aligned in the same direction, the more conviction he had. This is how sophisticated investors think about economic data, not as individual data points, but as a mosaic. No single indicator is a crystal ball. All 10 together build a picture. Here's how to start applying this today. Build your free economic dashboard. Bookmark these 10 on FRED and Trading Economics. Check them once a month. You don't need to check daily. You don't need to react to every move. You're looking for sustained trends, 3 to 6 months of consistent signals in the same direction. When multiple indicators converge, when the yield curve is flat or inverted, credit spreads are widening, PMI is contracting, and consumer confidence is falling, reduce risk in your portfolio. Shift more to cash, short-duration bonds, or defensive assets like utilities and consumer staples. When multiple indicators are improving, when the yield curve is normalizing, credit spreads are tightening, PMI is recovering, and confidence is rebuilding, increase exposure to growth assets. The goal isn't to predict the future perfectly, it's to have better information than the average person, to make decisions based on signals, not noise, to think like an investor, not like a news consumer. Richard didn't know exactly when the 2008 crash would happen. He just knew the signals were pointing toward danger and he positioned defensively. That was enough. Here's what I want you to take away from this video. Wealth isn't built through secret information. It's built through better frameworks. The wealthy investors who navigate economic cycles successfully aren't smarter than you. They don't have access to data you can't access. They just learn to watch different things and to think about economic signals as tools, not background noise. Every indicator I showed you today is publicly available, free, updated monthly. The information gap between wealthy investors and everyone else isn't about access. It's about awareness. Now you're aware. If this video changed how you think about the economy and your money, share it with one person who needs to hear it. And if you want to go deeper, next week I'm going to break down exactly how central banks control the money supply and what it means for every financial decision you make. Subscribe so you don't miss it. I'll see you in the next one.